Welcome to Drum Addicts on Andertons TV, and I have two legends in the same room, and we're going to talk about drums.
1.5. I'm like a half of...
No, you're the one. I'm the half.
I'd say you're the one, yeah.
No, I don't know. Old, I think, is the word you're looking for.
Experienced.
Experienced, yeah.
So obviously we've got Craig and Russ. Everyone should know who they are. If you don't, Google them. We're going to talk about these lovely drums, which are sort of hidden all around us. Design Lab.
That's right.
This is your new baby, aren't they?
Partly mine, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. You've had a lot to do with it. So.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
And you've just been hitting them.
I've just been hitting them. I mean, I was invited to when Mapex shot the videos in LA, and we were flown over 10 artists to this amazing studio and checked out the concepts and the kits, and yeah, it's safe to say they blew my mind as a player. You know, I don't think that ever goes away. As you know, the kid that wants to hear great sounding drums, it never goes away. So, you know, we spent 4 or 5 days in the studio together and played these amazing drums. And Russ was at the helm of it, which was pretty incredible.
Fun.
Then you come to our studio, so
yeah.
So check that playing out because it's really good as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I, you know, years ago, Joe Hibbs, the artist relations manager for Mapex, you know, brought me over there really to work on this. And that was in 2013. And that was really the whole reason that I came to Mapex to discuss what you're seeing now. And it's just taken, you know, a long time because it turned into something much, much bigger than what we originally discussed, and which I'm really happy about. You know.
But it's not your first time designing. You've designed mics as well as add-on parts of kits, all sorts, haven't you? As well as your snare, which got on.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff that has my name on it, like signature stuff. There's a lot of stuff I've done that doesn't have my name.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's actually, I don't remember exactly, but it's like 90 products with like 13 companies.
30.
Something like that. Yeah,
and you're doing American Idol and all the film scores and everything you do at the same time.
Yeah. I have little to no personal life, but yeah, you know, all you know, it's funny. All the stuff. I mean, this is maybe a different project because the scale of it is so big. But like all those like the groove wedge or the sub kicks or all that stuff is just me working and running into a wall and going, man, I wish I had this, and. You know, I think one of the things was my hobbies, I never intended to do anything with it, but my hobbies were finished cabinet making and mechanical and architectural engineering. So I took classes when I was in school. I just liked it. I always played. I never did it or wanted to do them as a job. I just liked it. So part of that I think translates to this. So, because a lot of times I'll draw the blueprints for the guys and the mechanical drawings and go here. So I would run into a thing on a gig and go, you know what, we needed to do this. And I would like literally draw the mechanical drawing and just give it to the R&D department and then go, make that. You know, for me anyway.
On the snare head, just like.
Yeah, literally on a snare head, no.
On the best, I think, you know, as artists though, I think the best products that come out, not necessarily signature products, are products of passion where the drummer is like, I have a problem here, let's talk about it, let's fix it, rather than here's a gimmick, you know, let's put this out to the market. Yeah. I think they're the ones that have the best longevity in the market, you know.
You're absolutely right. And one of the keys to the Design Lab that is really different than the approach that most companies have used, including Mapex in the past, is we have in the design team, we have this term called a concept hybrid. And we came up with that because what we were doing was creating the sound idea first, right? Which is very different, if you think about it, than what a lot of people do. A lot of people go, hey, we found this wood that we like. We're going to put our hardware on it, maybe this hardware, that hardware, maybe these heads. How does that sound? Well, that sounds pretty good. Let's bring an artist in and see what they think of it. Oh, they think it's pretty good too. Okay, maybe this is something that we could sell. And that's sort of the approach. Where with Design Lab, we have this thing called a concept hybrid, which is literally the artist is at the very beginning of it, going, we want to make a sound that sounds like Stuart Copeland's snare drum mixed with Buddy Rich's snare drum, you know, and can we do that? What do we call that sound? Oh, it's bright, it's classic, it's articulate, it's got overtones. You know, we come up with those things, and then we build a snare drum that embodies that sound concept, you know? And then if that works, those are the design lab snare drums, right? If they work, then we talk about, does any of those concepts have the validity to expand it into a drum set idea? So we look at, you know, what ones we felt like had that kind of stuff, and then that's how it kind of works. That's why you see the Cherry Bomb drum set is an extension or an inspiration out of the Cherry Bomb snares. Now, in the past, they had the Black Panther drums, which were sort of whatever the Black Panther snare drum was. They just took that formula and made a drum set just as an experiment. This is not that. This is using the inspiration of what the snare drum was. So if this, let's say the Cherry Bomb snare drum was vintage, controlled, precise, meaning we want a 1950s Gretsch round badge with brand new hardware, but that speaks really quick, because a lot of the old drums, they speak very slowly because they had big round bearing edges, right? So we want that sound, but we want it to speak quick and have, you know, new hardware. Okay, that inspiration, let's move that to the drum. So it's not like just taking the shell and go, oh, it's a 7-ply cherry shell, we're going to make it into a drum set. That's not what it is. So that's why you'll see all kinds of different things happening, because it was merely the inspiration for it. And that's kind of how it came about.
It's also an evolution, and so in like 2010, that's when the first Black Panther came out as a snare range, and then it's moving to kits.
Right.
These kits, these are not just an evolution moving forward, these are a revolution with regards to how far forward they are now. So some of the elements like the mount, for instance, it's a lot of hard work from you over very, very many years.
Yeah, a lot of testing and stuff.
It's new, isn't it? And to try and convey that across to a drummer going, it isn't just a yes mount or an L arm or something. This is completely different.
No, I did the original yes mount. I worked with Hagi on that back in the late 80s, early 90s.
I had a 9000 part exchange in that was pre-yes mount last week.
Yeah,
like
it was right on the shell, man. The thing went right through the shell, the whole thing. Yeah, that was like a big deal that we took it off the shell, right, and put it on that was like, oh yeah, it doesn't have to jam right through the wood. But this is another step, isn't it? It's a ginormous step. There's no other word besides revolutionary for the Matt's arm. You know, nothing's been done like it before. You know, I have the one here. It's funny because guys will go, it looks big, it looks different, it blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, what does an opposing magnet tom arm look like, man?
Yeah, right.
This is the first one. Maybe in 5 years it'll be this big. I don't know. But this is the first time anybody's done this, which is, basically taking all the weight of the drum and putting all of the weight of the drum in between two opposing magnets and relieving that weight from the shell. That's the most simple way to describe it. So that the drum is floating on a magnetic field. I'm using my thumb to do it here, but because the drum's not on there, but it's just floating there. This point right here, I always do this. If you ever held a drum up and held it like this, and you tuned it and you hit it and you went, it sounds amazing, and you put it on the mount and then it's a mess, it's choked, and it's all that transfer loss is happening through the hardware. Depending on how the mount is designed, the shell is bearing its weight, things like that. So this thing is basically, this is the dangle point, like if you're holding it, and then this entire mechanism is not touching, it's only pivoting, and the magnets are taking the weight. So it's simple in concept, but it's extremely complicated in design.
And the theory is the less contact points you have will make the drum be more resonant, I guess.
Correct, yeah. You get more of the actual sound of the instrument. Because when you hold it up, that's the sound of your drum, right? So in a perfect world, that would always be there, no matter if it was mounted, unmounted, all that stuff. So that's the goal, was to get to that point where...
I think that's the one thing I noticed when I played it for the first time. I always see drummers, not necessarily with the 8 and the 10, it's always the 12 or 13. And they pick it up, it's like, you got a beautiful overtone. The moment they stick it over the kick, it's just gone. And it's like, what's going on? And for me personally, it was there. It didn't change, you know. And the guys will see it when they obviously come into the store or check it out.
Yeah.
You know, the sound you're getting with the drum, with one contact point being the fingers, is the sound you're getting now on the kit, which is staggering.
Yeah. And the feel.
Absolutely.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a pushback on the drum when you hit the drum and it's tightened into the hardware and it has loss into it. There's like a choking sort of kickback. And if you A/B it with one that's doing it like this, it's dramatic. I mean, it feels so much better to play the drums with these.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of that kind of give to it, you know. And I'm doing this, you know, it never moves that much. It only kind of moves about that much with the drum on there. But it just that much, you get that sort of cool puffy feel out of the drums. That
Absolutely.
It makes you want to play them.
I was trying to explain to a magazine, I think it was Drumhead magazine or one of the American magazines, about this. And I was trying to explain about resonance, because everyone talks about resonance and pitch. And now we have control over both,
Yeah.
I guess, really. And that's the one thing that I found is by not touching anything on the drum head, you can control both of those.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that when we started working on this, I always play all my drums wide open.
Yeah.
And I don't like having anything on the head, you know, for a couple of reasons. One, it totally changes the feel of the drum. And two, you know, you sort of crush both parts of the sound, right? Because when you hit a drum, there's in the big picture, there's two parts: the note itself and then the sustain of that note. So when you put a gel on or tape or let's say a really thick head with like rings in it, you affect both of those. You shorten the note, you shorten the sustain. And there's times where I want a big sound, I just don't want it to be around for very long. You know what I mean? So we've been stuck with that before. It was like if I wanted a shorter sound, it had to be a smaller sound, right? It couldn't be big and short, right? So that was the discussion, what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about sound, where we're going, I want a mount that makes it possible to have it big and short, or short and long. The note itself is short, but it sustains for a long time. That's really difficult to do, and you can't do it by just sticking something on the drum. So there was two components that were tested like mad with this, and the one is called the MFA, which is magnetic force adjustment, and it's this little wheel up here. And this one, all you do is take the little wrench and turn this little wheel back and forth. And basically what you do is apply more magnetic force or less magnetic force. That's why it's called magnetic force adjustment. And you're just allowing more of the weight to bear into the shell. So if you want it to be short, you just do this and it'll choke the drum up, just like it would if you stuck gel on it or anything. And but you can adjust it in a really fine-tuned way, you know.
It is incredible, and the feel's still there as well.
That's the
one
thing
I noticed that doesn't change.
Right, you can have a choke sound, but at that puffy feel, right? Because the other way, if you choke the head, it's that dead, pushback type feel. And then the other thing is the ARG, which is acoustic resonance gate, and what that is that's a natural, like a gate. Everybody might know what a gate is. It's like a noise gate, you know, like you use in the studio. And basically what that does is it allows a certain time of sound to happen, and then it shuts off the mic. That's what a gate does. So what this does, this ARG here, this does the same thing. At the top, it allows the sustain to be as long as you want, long as it can be, and then the more you lower it down, the more it shortens the sustain. But it's not affecting that. It's not affecting the note part. It's only affecting the sustain. So I can roll this back and have a big note, but take this all the way down and shorten the sustain of it. I mean, this is totally revolutionary, man. Like nobody's even come close to this. And it's pretty exciting, you know? I mean, it's a completely different concept. I've had people go, I hate the way it looks so much, I never want to play it. You know, and you go, okay, fine. But I mean, it's so different and it's so revolutionary. You just have to go, it's not a omni-ball tom arm with a thing. You know, it's just not. It's a whole different thing. And I think it looks cool. I think it's pretty Star Trek.
It's also not that chunky. Like it's all CNC aluminium, so it's not that heavy or chunky.
There's two versions, right? That's the 7/8. And
this is the short one.
You get the one that goes in the boom as well.
Right, so that one you can put it, like make a double tom holder in your bass drum or put it in a rack or whatever. And then there's the long one with got a 1 inch, so you can replace the center section of the whole stand.
but it's
yeah,
not.
but
it's
you know
not
what?
that chunky.
It's not. And the funny thing is, like, I've taken like a platform clamp and like the tom arm and all that, and put it right beside it, and it's probably smaller than that. It's just such a different look. You know, everybody's been kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah.
But
That's why drummers are stubborn.
they are stubborn. But I mean, reality is, you gotta check it out because it's so revolutionary. It's so different than anything we've ever had before. And there's my magnet, so you can't ever lose your key when you do that. It's so revolutionary that you just have to feel it and hear it and see it and play with it, and it's just groundbreaking.
Let's move on to the kit. Let's show us how to set one up and how you would adjust your sound. Go on.
Okay.
We will cut to Russ sat behind the kit. So this is actually your setup and your kit, and this is a configuration that you can literally click on our website and buy. This is one of the kits.
Yeah, and there's not really, well, there's two things. There's custom selections in what you can get, right? So you can change the hoops, you can change the bass drum hoops, obviously the color, the hardware color, things like that. Whenever there's like custom drums, one of the things that I don't like about that is that there's no statement from the company, this is what this instrument is. Because, like, you know, some of the companies you can go on the website and make really anything. So it's kind of like, well, what is the sound of, what is the approach of that instrument? What am I getting into? Well, I'm getting into anything I want, right? I can have this wood and this thing and this size and this. So there's no real distinct statement of like, okay, this is what we were trying to do with this instrument. And so what we did with Design Lab, I mean, obviously you can get anything you want. Like Craig has a really awesome setup with 3 aux drums and all this stuff. But the point is, what is the statement of what Design Lab is trying to do? So there's 2 what we call kind of presentation kits, which is, like you were saying, this is the configuration for one, and then the Cherry Bomb is another. Like the Cherry Bomb's just 12, 14, 16, 22. This one's 10, 12, 14, 16, 22, and the aux drum. And that was done to say, like, this is what we wanted to say about this instrument. Yes, you can tweak it and do whatever you want, but you can do that. Now, the Versatis kit, Versatis means versatile in Latin, and it was inspired by the Versatis snare drum. But one of the things that we went for with this kit, besides the concept hybrid of it, which was hi-fi, I think, I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but it's like innovative, hi-fi, punchy. It's basically a driving, funky, punchy kit, but usually you get that out of a vintage sound. We wanted that, but as hi-fi as it could be. I mean, pristine 4K kind of, you know, thing. So that was what it was about. And the term versatile, what we wanted was a setup that you could make so many things out of. And one of the elements of that was this aux drum. This is a 3-in-1 instrument where it's got a batter head on one side that's a tom, the other side is a bass drum. And its brackets are positioned in a way where it can be an aux bass drum out to the side. It can be a gong bass drum like Craig uses it. I do that on movie stuff a lot. Or it can be like this is the gong floor tom. So it comes with legs, it comes with the spurs, it comes with the lift for the bass drum. It's positioned in a way that all works for you. It comes with a bracket on the top. We even have a cymbal arm you can make out of the bass drum. So what happens with this kit is you have this setup where you have a gong, let's say make it an 18 floor, or you have the setup where it's a gong tom, or you have the setup where it's an aux bass drum. That's 3 different configurations. Then if you take this, the 10 and the 14, now you have like a little club gig kit, right? And you still have a 12, 22, 16 to practice with at home or to use for the rock gig. So the versatility of the kit's pretty amazing. Just by adding this one instrument into it, it became all these things, really like 5 different kits.
I think sonically as well, the depth of tuning for me was incredible, especially the kick drums.
Yeah.
You know, people will say, oh, it's quite a shallow kick drum, I want a rock gig. It's a staggering amount of tune you can get out of it and sound.
It is, and then remember I was saying earlier about the inspiration of the snare drum. The Versatis snare drum that we did introduced the first SAS ring system, which that's a different approach, right? Like in the past, reinforcement rings were used to reinforce the shell. That's why they're called. It was a thin shell, like a 5-ply shell. You had to put rings on it, or it would go out of round. It would become oval. So they would put reinforcement rings on it and support the shell. We don't use them for that. We use them for the sonic qualities of the ring, because when you put a ring on there, you get more wood at the contact point, so it's a fatter sound, it's a bigger sound. It also dries that area of the drum a little bit. Obviously, now it's 10 or 11, 12 plies more than just 7 or 6. And so when we did the Versata snare drum, that was the first time we used the ring. We had it on the batter side only, because I wanted that drum to not need muffling. So you can play it wide open, nothing on the snare. There's no weird rings, there's no anything like that. But we left the ring off the bottom because we still wanted the snare element to have a lot of ambience and resonance. And so we used that idea of creating the ring system in this kit. And there's what we call chamber-specific approach, meaning every chamber is a different formula. And that's one of the other problems that's happened with a lot of drum design is a lot of times, companies go, okay, the toms are 7-ply birch. And it's like, well, okay, but what happens with that, and I think you probably experienced this, I know you have, you get a 7-ply birch tom set and you go, wow, that one sounds great. Wow, that one sounds pretty good. That one doesn't sound as good. That one's okay. This one's not really good at all, right? Or somewhere in the middle, one's okay, some are better than others, but it's pretty simple. I mean, those chambers are responding differently to that formula. Like a 10-inch tom is not the same chamber as a 16-inch floor tom. So to say that the same thickness of shell and bearing edge and all this is going to get the most sound out of here and the most sound out of here, that's really not possible. So it has to be adjusted that way. So not only are the drums and we just did this by like a stupid amount of testing.
Well, just that bass drum, you were a couple of months moving the hoops, weren't you?
Yeah, and so exactly, like the 8-inch tom has no ring, right? The 10 has no rings. The 12 has a ring on the top only to make it a little bit fatter and dry it a little bit. The 13 is already a big sound. It's a thicker shell. We put the ring on the bottom to help control the sustain, so you don't need to muffle a big 13-inch tom. There's rings top and bottom on floor toms. But when you get to the bass drums, like the 18, there's no rings because we want that to be tonal and open. The 20 has rings forward and backward, resonant and batter. But then when you get to a 22 and a 24, we wanted to try something that's never been done before, which was, can we create a 22 and a 24-inch bass drum that doesn't need muffling at all? And not sound like a John Philip Sousa marching bass drum. I mean, you can obviously take the muffling out of your bass drum, but you better be playing like, Sousa marches with it. The thing was, when you have muffling in the bass drum, and there's really two things, right? There's the hole in the front head, that muffles it. It also raises the pitch by almost an octave in the bass drum. And a lot of people don't understand that. When you cut a hole in the front of that head, you raise the fundamental pitch of that drum almost an octave. So having no hole allows you to keep the fundamental pitch of the drum really low. So that's why you see guys like playing a 20 by 16 or 20 by 14-inch bass drum with no holes, and they have a nice big fat sound out of it. You don't need a big drum to do that. A lot of times what happens is guys get really big bass drums, but then they muffle it and put a hole in it, and now you're kind of fighting the instrument, right? The muffling, it does two things. It obviously shortens the sustain, and it also breaks up the standing wave. The standing wave is the wave coming from the batter and the resonant meet in the middle of the drum, and they create this weird, if it was a consistent sound, it would just be a tone, like, right? But it's not consistent because we're hitting it. So all you get is this weird boingy basketball. Sounds like when you're playing a basketball on the ground, right? That's when you don't have any muffling in there. The muffling breaks up the standing wave, so you don't get that boing anymore. It also shortens the sustain. But it also changes the feel of the drum, and it also limits the dynamic range. Because when you muffle a bass drum head a lot, you lose the lower dynamic range. it sounds great if you hit it hard, but then when you hit it really low, it sounds like a box.
Yeah.
Because there's no head movement. So we wanted to can I get the full dynamic range out of the drum where it's either completely wide open or there's barely anything in it, and you have a great punchy full range sound with tone and bottom end and all that. So there's 3 rings. They were positioned back from the bearing edge to shorten the sustain, and then we found out that center ring breaks up that standing wave, and you don't need to have a pillow in there.
The feel of the kick for me is, I'm going to say this, but it feels like nothing I've played.
Yeah.
You get all the control you ever want. It's that was pretty staggering.
That was the first thing when you were at our place.
I was like, check out the
just
kicks.
play the bass drum.
Play the bass drum. Yeah, it's one of the most amazing kicks I've ever heard.
It is ridiculous. I mean, I set it up when Jeff Hamilton and I were talking about it, and I just said it, and I just tapped it, and he went, "Go on."
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because it is just one of those things where I think we've always made concessions, and sometimes we're so used to doing it that we just do it naturally now. We go right to the bass drum and go, well, I don't want it to sustain that long, and I don't want this big boingy, ringy sound, so shove a Mickey Mouse pillow in there, and I'll just deal with the feel, I'll deal with the pitch, I'll deal with all that because I don't want to deal with the other stuff. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with Design Lab, where the artists are part of the thing in the beginning going, you know what, I don't want to put a Mickey Mouse pillow in my bass drum. I want this bass drum to play in its full range. And I love this drum because, man, you can feather, when you're playing a swing thing, you can feather real light and get a beautiful, low pitch out of that thing and a full sound, and then lay into it, and it doesn't take off on you. And that's really hard to do. So the ring system is part of that.
But that's just one element, isn't it? You've got locking lugs, different hoops. There's, like you said earlier, literally there isn't one bit that's been overlooked or gone, oh, we'll just use that part.
And the shell depths as well. I mean, that's one thing that people will find. It's not just like your standard 8x7 or 10x8. It's some really cleverly thought through shell depths over a long period of time.
Yeah, and that's why there's not 4 different 10-inch toms. That's why there's not a 10x7, 10x8, 10x9. We did when we went to the chamber-specific designs with the rings and the thickness of the shell. I mean, the bearing edges changed, the thickness has changed, and then here's the thing that's really deep. Whatever wood is on the contact point of the head is really what you're hearing the most out of the drum. So if you have a hybrid shell and you put, and I've done this in the past, you put a hardwood on the inside, but the softer wood is on the contact point. You don't really hear the hardwood. The hardwood's more of a reflection inside of the shell. It's not necessarily a character of the drum as much. It can control the way the shell works, but you don't hear it as much. If you put it at the contact point of the head, you hear that wood more. So the positioning of the mahogany in these moves into the contact points from the thickness of the shell, so that the mahogany is what you're hearing and controlling the sound, but the maple has got the body and the projection and all that other stuff, reflections. So all those things have been tested and worked on. And these are locking tube lugs. That's the first ones on the market. We came up with a mechanism of doing that. I mean, I love tube lugs. They sound the best, but it was always a drag because they always detune. I mean, it's literally a tube with threads. So, we came up with a mechanism for doing that. And one of the things that we did with that was really cool is you can remove that mechanism. Like a lot of locking mechanisms are neoprene, plastic, or nylon. They wear. Yeah. Even remember the lug locks, you'd put them here, they would round out after a while, and you'd have to take them out. So all of the little neoprene pieces for the locking, you can remove everything, and we have a bag, you can buy them and replace them all, make the kit all brand new again. It's a little bit of a job to do it, but it's maybe in 5 years or 6 years, you can redo all your locking mechanisms, and it's all like a fresh kit out of the box. The hoops, triple flange, sonic saver, curled in like the old Saber hoops, focuses the sound down, so you can tweak the sound if you think this is great, but I wanted to just punch more, or put the other hoops on it. I mean,
also chrome and nickel colouring.
Correct. Yeah.
So
you can have the
couple
black
different
brush.
options.
Right. We have a venting system that there's different vents in every drum for the feel. Some of them have 2, some have 1, some have 4. Every one of them's been tested like that for airflow to get the feel. The new bass drum hoops, these are the Sonic Clear bass drum hoops that are resized. You can see, look at how flush this is, like perfectly sized to the hoops. They're beveled on the inside to work with the curvature down to the collar of the head. I mean, everything's been, I mean, we've spent so much time on it. I mean, we have rubber gaskets under here, so you don't, if it loosens up, it doesn't rattle. And just a lot of time and effort has been spent to have a great experience as a player. That's the key, really.
The other thing is obviously floor tom leg, the one closest to you.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah. So Craig, I mean, he knows we have this SAS system, which is a Sonic Clear attenuation system, and that was another big thing that we worked on, where we wanted to create aspects of it that allowed you to change the sound in real time in ways that you never could before. These are part of that, right? You can adjust the sustain and not the note and all the different things. And so one of the other ones that we have is this SAS floor tom leg.
Do you want to grab one out? And
yeah.
Or lean the drum on you.
This thing, it's probably the simplest design ever, right? But it's super effective. So, what we used to do back in the day, I don't know if you did this, but back in the day, if we were in a big venue and your floor tom was feeding back or whatever, here comes the sound guy with a roll of duct tape, like, tape it up. But we used to take out the floor tom leg and turn it upside down and do this, because if you created a straight path to the floor, the drum would dry up. It would choke up a little bit, so you didn't have to muffle it, right? So many of the companies for years have experimented with different angles, and the more severe the angle, let's say the better the drum sounds. So at 90 degrees would give you sort of the most sound out of the drum. All right, so it's weird. In here, like, we don't want a bunch of steps to the floor because it kills the drum, right? But here, the more steps to the floor, the better the drum sounds, right? Because if I do this, it sounds worse with a single straight line. So the more things you have, the better the thing sounds. So like our regular new legs are static 90 degree legs. So they're totally 90 degrees. We have the SPF, it's the Sonic Pedestal Foot, which it's a rubber spring. So the drum is completely floating on a rubber spring. It doesn't touch the ground. And then there's a 90 degree thing. So the SAS leg, what we did is, we want to be able to adjust that sustain to any amount. So we literally put two, they're kind of like cymbal tilters, I guess, like knuckles here, and you can adjust the angle to be whatever you want it to be. So if I'm on the gig and it's like ringing too much or something like that, I can just adjust the sustain of the floor tom of the floor tom by changing the angle of this leg, and I can make it all the way straight if I want, or I can make it just a little bit of an angle. I can start at 90. I can go straight if I want it totally choked. I can make it a sonar leg if I want it. They do an inverted one, and this is sort of where the normal legs are at, about 45, and anywhere in between. So,
And people are watching now, and this is one thing that it's kind of, you have that eureka moment, or that bonfire night moment as a drummer that's like, what, really? You can hit the shell, and you can notice the difference in the resonance of the drum if you just hit the shell.
Yeah.
It's that obvious.
We also experimented with the legs with the gong drum, didn't we? So when we had it in our place, we were like, we're trying to get it, because we actually had it sat on the left side of the kit, and we're like, we can just, it was really handy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's quite cool.
Yeah, and you only need one because it makes such a big difference. You don't need to have three of them. So it ships with one of these and then two of the regular legs. Yeah. And I dig it. When I'm on a session and stuff, I just tweak it a little bit. It's really cool.
So let's talk about the mount. Let's show the drummers how it actually connects, because obviously there's just one point on the drum, isn't there? So if I pull this out a little bit.
Yeah, so there's the connection point. It's pretty cool. This is a two-stage, it's called the mounting block, but it's a two-stage mounting block. So let me move this snare drum for a second. What you'll see is I can put the drum in here, right? This is the way it looks. This is the bridge, right? And it just sits in the mounting block like that. Okay, fine. Like I get it to wherever I wanted the angle. Okay, and then when you tighten this to stage 1, it basically puts, if I can see it, I can't see it, there we go. I tighten it to stage 1, which is about halfway, I'd say. The drum won't come out. I can't get it out of the mounting block, but it will spin 360 to tune the bottom head, right? And so it stays in position for you. You tune the bottom head. Now, okay, now I got it back. I got the bottom head tuned. Now I go to stage 2 and just finish it off, and now it won't move. That's the first thing. Okay, the second thing is, it's pretty simple. There's a couple different wrenches that come with it, but the first one is just basic Allen wrench. You just turn this little knob here in small increments back and forth, and that's the MAF. That's going to adjust the sound of the note. That's simple.
Which pushes the magnets together?
It pushes the magnets together,
yeah.
Right. So it's applying more force into it. The ARG, the acoustic resonant gate, you just loosen that up on the bottom, and this goes up and down. That's pretty simple. Just putz with it until you get the sound you want, right?
That's funny because most people thought that was just a height adjustment.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you'll find out soon enough that it's changing the sound, right? Those are all really simple things. The only trick with this whole mounting system is what's called the DLP. I can't even see it from there. You got it. It's called the DLP, the drum leverage position, which is this little thing right here. Now, obviously, this drum doesn't weigh the same as a 16-floor tom or an 18-floor tom or whatever.
Or even that 10.
Yeah. Drums weigh different, right? You got different hoops on them. So this 10 and that 10 doesn't even weigh the same, or the 12s. So the magnet needs to know, like, what am I holding up here, right? Am I holding up an 8-inch tom or an 18-inch floor tom? They're not the same thing. So it's super duper important that when you first get it, you just adjust that leverage position to tell the magnets what it's holding up. It's as simple as that. And you have to do that because, I mean, it's just as simple as the magnet going, if I think I'm holding an 18, I'm going to hit this 8 so hard with all this force, you're going to have a brick. It's going to sound like a brick, you know, and like this is really low for a 10 kind of, right? So if it's too low, it's just too much force for that size drum and it's going to choke up on you. So if you get it and you go, it's choking, it's not working, it's because you haven't, you know, got the leverage position correct. You only really need to do it once. I mean, when you first buy it, you just get it and say that's the one for the 10 and this one for the 12, 13, whatever. And that's it. So I mean, I done it the first time I got it, and I did it, and I haven't touched it since, really. Because you can mess with the other adjustments for sound. You don't mess really with that for sound. So.
And yeah, that's right. I mean, the only thing that you really need to do once you get set up is the original mounting position and spin the drum, tune it up, and
that's it.
Everything's in place.
Yeah. And just a side note, just there's the connection for the mounting block is in this little tunnel in there. The ones out here on the outside, these are the angle adjustments. So I've had guys like cranking on that, going, you know, it won't stop spinning. And you're like, you're on the wrong one, man. You know. So really quick, I mean, it's pretty simple. You take the little wrench. The only thing that's super important, I just want to make sure we talk about this. There's a locking mechanism here at the top. You see, there's a hole on the side and there's a hole in the block there. You put the little wrench right through that, and now that's locked. The magnets are locked, okay? Now you can loosen both of these up and move them up and down. If you loosen these up before you lock this, you're going to hate me and everyone involved with this. Because what's going to happen is you're going to set this off with the magnet force pushing against you the whole time, and they're really strong, man. They are really strong. So once that thing is set off like that, I mean, you can see like it'll draw this wrench in from anywhere because there's a pretty good magnet in there. They're the same magnets that are in a super train, floating above the track. And but you lock it in before you do that adjustment.
That's the one thing I didn't, and everything just turned to jelly.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going? Russ.
We found that out the wrong way, didn't we?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we got a quick start guide and all that stuff that we did with it that, you know, but it's really important because you can fix it. I mean, you fight it back into place and get the wrench and lock it and reset it, but it's kind of a pain. Yeah.
But that's the thing, and people might find that quite intimidating, but it really is one setup, take you 5 minutes, play around with the pitch, the resonance, how much you want the drum to choke, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Pretty much, really.
And then you just put your cymbal in there anyway, and you carry on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that one's the 1-inch one. It's got a cymbal receptacle, and the 7/8 is the small one we had, and that doesn't have the cymbal on it because it's more for like mounting on a rack or something. Yeah. And yeah, man, they've been great. I had my drum tech, when we first started using them, I'm like, throw them in the bottom of the hardware truck. Like, just throw them in there, let it get knocked around. I want stuff to land on it. And
of course.
They've survived. They've been fine. I've been using them for about almost 2 years.
And it's obviously teamed together as well. It isn't just Mapex, is it? So
it's Randy May from Randall May International. He actually started that whole thing. Originally, and you'll see it on the Roland, I don't know the number, I think it's TD50.
TD50.
Yeah, there's an
that's part
electronic.
of you as well.
That's one of my babies.
Yeah. So do you have the mats on that, right?
The mats on that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the mats E. These are the mats A for acoustic drums. So yeah, he started that with for the electronic drums, not for sound, but to isolate the pad from double triggering. Right, so then it was all modified, and I worked directly with Randy, and the design team from Design Lab worked directly with Randy to conform what we needed to make it an acoustic drum version. And he's making it, and he's very, very well known for. I mean, I've used his mic mounts and stuff.
Yeah, so internal mic mounts and things.
Yeah, for 100 years I've used those, but he's a tooling maniac. I mean, it is meticulous race car level aluminum tooling, and it's a really, really well made piece.
Yeah.
It's not junk metal with chrome on it. I mean, this is real deal like tooling, and it's survived. It's been fine. There was a couple things I was worried about, and I might have spoke to you about it before. We tested a boatload of microphones.
Yeah.
By the magnets to make sure there wasn't any weird.
Yeah.
So we tested everything. I had Neumann, M149s like cranked up, and make sure there was no magnetic field around the mics. And every time I go to a session, though, the engineer goes, "Where's the magnets?" Like, I don't want the mics, but I'm like, "It's cool, man. We checked it out." Yeah. And then you had a great point when we shot those videos that I had recognized, but it didn't connect with my brain.
Cymbal splash sound?
Yeah, well, the sympathetic vibration is gone, right? Because when you hit a cymbal, the tom sympathetically vibrates through the mount, and then you get this weird little rumble in the mics. And a lot of times in mixing, a lot of guys don't know this, but a lot of times when we do mixes for contemporary music, we go through and we erase the tom tracks all the way up to the point where you hit the tom. And then you wait for it to sustain, you fade out, and you erase it until I hit the tom again. And that does two things. It takes away this weird little like hum, rumble, right? Whatever you'd call it, that's happening on all the toms, and it cleans up the drum set sound in a recording. And the other thing that's happening is every one of these mics, once the diaphragm goes into motion, you have slight phasing of the microphones all over the kit. So your snare drum and bass drum clean up and have more bottom and attack when you get rid of the tom mics. But this system is doing that naturally.
Yeah.
Which is really slick. That they're not sympathetically vibrating when you're hitting all the stuff that they're mounted to.
On the flip side as well, most guys that will mount rack toms with splashes, which it drives me crazy in the studio. Every time you hit a tom, you hear shh, gets rid of that completely.
Yeah, the opposite direction.
The opposite direction. It's brilliant.
That's because you smother your kit and cymbals.
Well,
so.
Yeah.
I play progressive music. It's the law.
Yeah. Plus, he doesn't have to carry his stuff anymore.
But yeah,
that's true. That's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Very good point. Yeah.
It was the same with me. Like, everybody goes, "You got the same drum set every time I see you. It's always set up." I'm like, "I know. I don't have to carry it anymore." Anyway, yeah.
But no, this is, like I say, it could look a bit futuristic, but really it is a revolutionary product, and it is to convey that it isn't this magical, like all sorts of things have been said. Oh, it looks like it's a particular part of Star Trek's.
It looks like a Terminator arm or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it is all been designed for a purpose, and it does the job so well that some people might be intimidated by a price tag, or that it's too fiddly or anything like that. I'll just use a belt drive pedal on a bass drum and I play jazz and that's that. But it really does open the drum sound up and make it so individual to each drummer. You can tweak it to how you want it to sound.
Yeah. I mean, Craig wants his toms to punch or drive different than I want mine, and you can do all that. And I mean, it's so different than what we've had before that there's just no possible way that it was going to look like an Omni ball with an arm on it. I mean, it just wasn't. And
did people complain about that 20 years ago? Did people say that was bulky?
Yeah.
So
they didn't. They thought the Omni ball wasn't going to work because before that we had teeth for everything. How is it going to hold it?
Yeah.
You know, the teeth hold it together. You know, but the problem with the teeth was it was either here or here or here. It was never, you know. Yeah. And when the Omni ball first happened, everybody said the same thing. Oh, I'm going to hit that. It's going to fall on the gig. It's going to do all this stuff. But you know, they came up with these teeth things that grab the, you know, the plastic ball in there, and it's solid, and it's just an evolution of it. You know.
It is, isn't it? And I think, you know, me included, for the guys watching at home, everyone will have an opinion straight away, won't they? You know, we live in an age where most people have an opinion and they're going to take to the internet.
No one's seen this, so no one's opinion is valid.
But I think the most
I've seen guys wail it though.
Jeez,
you've had it for years though.
I know, but I've seen guys on the internet already like see it on my kit and go, "That's the worst tom mount I've ever seen." And you're going, "You don't know anything about it."
Some of the things I've seen, it's like, burn him. It's like, what, really, man? I genuinely think, and you know, we say this all the time as, you know, people work in research and development of instruments, you know, do take 5 minutes. If you are really thinking, oh, really, is it a gimmick? Come into the store, listen to it.
Try it.
Really do try it, because the difference of acoustic drum evolution is staggering. It's completely staggering, you know, more than, it's a great time for acoustic drums now. You know, everyone's making some great stuff, but this is really, really raising the bar.
Well, it's obviously drums is the second oldest instrument from your voice, and everyone's gone, oh, this new wood that I found in a swamp and then I did a podcast about is going to revolutionise sound.
But it might do for a 10-inch tom.
Yeah, but it's obviously this is different. This is actually.
That's why I just think with this, more than anything, is just play it. Come and play it.
Yeah.
Come and absolutely get involved with this and feel how that drum feels under the stick. That's the most important thing for me as a professional player. I want things to sound great, but when I sit down, I want that feel under my feet. I want the feel under my hands. Then I can play.
Yeah.
And nothing is compromised. Nothing is compromised.
And this is all sound first, sound first, sound first. There's no, like you were saying about finding certain woods and stuff, that's not a sound first concept. That's a concept of we found this wood, snorkeling, or wherever we found it. You know, and it's sound first. I mean, that's the Design Lab snare drums was the first step where we wanted to show people sound first, sound first, sound first. Like this Heartbreaker snare drum, if you play this and it doesn't feel and sound like Phil Rudd's snare drum from Back in Black, I'll buy it back from you, because that's what it is, you know. And that the Equinox snare, it's Buddy's snare drum sound, you know, with the crack of a modern drum, and we just really went for stuff. There's like on those drums, like the Equinox snare drum, people don't understand. It's a solid copper, chrome over copper, single flanged hoop that's extra weighted to take the ring of the shell out. Just things like that unless you take a second and look into it, you don't even know that's happening. Yeah. But that drum plays great.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. It really is great. And
out of your 400.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. Yeah.
How many snares have you got?
I have no idea.
He's got too many now.
Not as many as my wife has shoes.
Well, not as many as she thinks you've got.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's a good 85 or 90 at least.
So you could times us by 4 and still don't have you.
I haven't got a life though.
He's got a lot. I got about 28 or 30 kits. That's quite a bit.
In one position, or are they like ones in an American Idol? Like, do you strategically
that's
put
not
them?
including the operational kits.
So that's just in your house.
That's in my warehouse. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I have 6 kits that are positioned. Like one's on the soundstage, one's in Europe, one's in Japan. I have 2 in LA, one in my studio, one in Carthage, and you know. But all that stuff is moving around.
But you have a dozen at home as well.
I got a few. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I got into this thing, man. I don't know what it was. Like when I got older, I don't know. I wanted all this. I could afford to do whatever I wanted to do. So I was like, I want all the stuff that I couldn't afford when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Like I used to look in the catalog and I had the old Gretsch like 81 stop sign, and I was like, I'll never have a drum set like that. And I just was like, I'm just gonna go buy one.
Do you know what? On the last tour, I was like, I did like a couple of clinics in, is it Rups in Denver? The guys at Rups.
Yeah.
And you go in, you see, I just think, I'm gonna have it. I shipped more stuff.
You
home.
shipped loads home, didn't you?
So much drums home on the last tour.
Just run the wife. There's going to be a parcel
I
delivered.
got more drums than I hit notes. I think it was ridiculous, but it's great, isn't it?
Yeah. You just got to try to spend just less than what you're making on the tour.
That's right.
It's better than spending it on beer.
Yeah, that's true.
But it never goes away, that drum excitement, and that that's why it's lovely. For the first time when I saw Russ talking about the instrument, it's really infectious because you can see it's not just here's a signature product, blah blah blah. It's passion and it's like evolution, and to be involved with it at this level is a real privilege,
Yeah, we're just drum geeks, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It really. I mean, I just like messing with the stuff because my wife is always going, "What are you doing? Like, why don't you just take a break?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I like doing this. It's fun. I like, when we get done and it works, and you're like, check this out.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like when you're playing at a high level, you're like, hey, man, check this out.
Yeah, right.
It's the same thing with that.
Well, how hard has it been to keep this a secret then? Because you've been doing what, 4 or 5 years on this?
Very hard.
So you have been playing it for what, 2? Because it's been on Instagram and snuck out a few times.
Yeah, snuck out a little bit.
This is the actual official exclusive.
It is, yeah. This weekend, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that. You knew like your mate had a girlfriend on the side and you couldn't tell his wife, and finally his wife found out. And you're like, oh, finally. You're like, okay, now everybody knows. I don't have to like pretend anymore.
So this is your mistress drum kit, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because guys have been just writing me, for years, going, "What is that? What am I seeing there? What is that?" Because I would be testing things on gigs or sessions or something. Yeah, so everybody sees it now. Here it is. Leave me alone. No, I'm excited about it. I think it's cool. I'm excited for people to play them, and I mean the Cherry Bomb kit is such an amazing drum set. The bass drum is ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
And
you want to take that one home, don't you?
Well, I've spec one for my studio. Yeah, that's going to be my studio kit, without shout. The range, depth of tuning, all that thing you want from a studio kit, it has it in abundance. It's incredible. Yeah, I spec 2.
Yeah.
Haven't got them, but spec them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, this is my setup that I use. I use this as an aux bass drum. I've used an aux bass drum for 25 years. I started doing that when I was working with Al Jarreau and Bobby Caldwell because, those guys would do all this. I would do Take 5 with Al, and then he would play, Boogie Down, which is an R&B hit, or Bobby Caldwell, I would play all these big band things, and then he would play What You Won't Do for Love or whatever. And the bass drum was always the problem for me because, I'd go to play the swing stuff, and the 22 muffled up or whatever just didn't work. And then I couldn't use the open 18 to play the R&B stuff, so I started having the 2 bass drum tones. And I've been doing that for a long time, and we morphed that sort of into this drum, being able to do other things with it. And but this configuration I have as a Versatis kit, and then I have a Versatis kit set up as a big band set, nice. Which is a 12, 14, 20. So it's and again, like Craig mentioned earlier, these are all sized very specifically. So like the 18s are 15 deep, the 20s 15 deep, but the 22 16 deep, and like in there, the 24 is a 14 deep, and the 18's 14, but the 22 16. So we did all that stuff about what was working for those chambers and the sizes, and so I have a 12, 14, 20 for big band. It's a Versatis. I have this Versatis, and then I have a Cherry Bomb that I do like rock and R&B studio stuff. I have a 12, 14, 16, 22, and then I have an 18 Cherry Bomb for that has fiber skin diplomats front and back and top and bottom. So that's like my real bebop straight ahead thing. So between those 2 kits and a couple little configurations, like I have everything covered.
Yeah, nice.
One question I have is because I like kits with wood hoops on. Mm-hmm. Have you tried these with wood hoops? And do they sound great?
They do. I have I did the original wood hoops.
I know.
Yeah. So I have a boatload of those. I have a whole bunch of those.
I found out when Yamaha were like, oh, yeah, we're splitting our ways and we don't have that factory. I was like, how many wood hoops do you have? And I bought all the wood hoops that I could
smart.
get.
That was smart, because they're worth a lot of money.
Well, we had limited runs of like club custom snares with wood hoops and things that we did for the shop.
Yeah.
And then I just had every tom size.
I get at least 100 emails a month about the groove forge. Wow. People because they're selling for like $400 on eBay.
It's crazy. I've got a black.
$39, I think. We sold it for $39.
I've still got a black one that I haven't used yet because it come with the snare.
Yeah, those are good ones. Those are really rare.
People have offered me crazy money for it. I'm like, nope.
Yeah,
not for sale.
A bunch of the black ones. Yeah, they're the same thing. But I have some of the original Yamaha vintage hoops I've tried on there, and then there's a custom drum maker. You may have saw my Saturn V tour kit had wood hoops on it, and those were custom made to match the drums by Guy Nakamura, and he has a company called Guy Drums, it's a really boutique. He worked for Sakai for years, and then he went and helped SJC kind of get off their feet.
Okay.
And but he's a custom drum guy, so I had him make a set of Peach Burl Burst. And stuff for the Mapex stuff. So I've been testing it with that.
I did wonder where you get them because they were matching. I didn't know if they were Yamaha hoops with a matching colour. They're not.
Yeah, no, Guy made those for me. Yeah, because they match the Saturn V. They have black on top and red. They're dope looking.
Nice.
It's a total drum nerd thing.
But not everyone realises that wood hoops obviously aesthetically completely change the kit, but just a little bit. They change the tone as well.
They do. And here, the interesting thing about wood hoops is they don't have the same effect on every drum. Like some drums will have a bigger effect than others, so you got to kind of check them out. Like for instance,
that's if you can get hold of them.
If you can get a hold of them, like they had a big effect on maple shells, and like you put them on the original Maple Custom and stuff like that, they really had a big effect. Not as much on like the beech drums and stuff like that. Some of the birch drums not as much, but it's an interesting test to put them on and say, does this thing translate? I don't know why. I would think that it has something to do with, that much wood on a certain chamber. It's not getting those to resonate as much. I don't know, but I have tested it and they're great. I mean, I wanted to make wood hoops the option because you can get triple flanged or sonic saver, and I was like, it'd be great if we had wood hoops, but we just can't get the doggone things to be able to be making them for anything that's affordable. They're really expensive.
Yep.
I mean, it's $700-800 pounds for a whole kit full of wood hoops. It's like buying another drum set.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough got a club custom, and
they were good on that kit.
I did buy another kit just buying hoops for it.
Yeah, yeah, but they were good on that set, on the Kapoor.
Yeah.
You're a drum nerd. I get it.
Well, no, I'd seen you with an image with them with hoops, so that's why I'd asked. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more options. We already have the next kit finished. I can't tell you. That's my next secret I got to keep.
Yeah, this is it. So
I can tell Craig.
You've got a 5-year plan, haven't you, basically?
Oh, yeah.
You've got a business plan with a portfolio and a 400-page dissertation. And
Craig knows. I don't know. Do you know yet?
I know bits.
You know bits.
Yeah, I know enough to be sworn to secrecy.
He's got the tattoo to say he's trustworthy.
Yeah. It's a UPC code.
That's right.
It's just a tracker, so you know where he is in the world.
But yeah, these things are kicking butt, and I'm really happy with them. And Craig sounds great on them, like he does everything. But it's just it's a great instrument.
Talking about Craig, check out the playing. We were lucky to have him at our place, so we might have hit them a little bit. So that was pretty cool. And we're going to have that one in the shop. So we're lucky that we're going to have that.
That's
not that one because you're probably going to beat that up, but
but the black on black like that, that's a beautiful finish.
Yeah.
And then you can see on that one you can see these you can select matching or natural bass drum hoops, right? That one's got the matching or natural hoops. You can have them match the drum finish or have natural ones. Kind of makes a little vintage vibe on it.
Yeah, just a great product, really cool.
It is, and it's been really cool. I mean, Craig has been a Mapex artist like I was, but the guys that came on board because of this. I mean, Jeff Hamilton, unbelievable, and Greg Hutchinson and Kirk Covington and all the guys who have just seen it right away and went, holy mackerel, and they're just in.
You just persuaded your friends to just
Pretty much.
Come to the dark side.
Yeah. Oh, hey, check this out. But, you know, guys like Jeff is a consummate master.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. One of the greatest living jazz players, period. And no one's going to convince him of anything, period, unless he digs it. He can afford to get anything he wants. He can have anything he wants. So, you know, even though he's my friend and I said, hey, check this out. When we started doing Cherry Bomb, you know, Cherry Bomb has two distinct sounds to it, kind of. It's the bigger drums are what you were saying, they're beautiful, studio, vintagey kind of vibe. But the small drums, they sound like 1950s jazz bebop. I defy someone to bring a 1950s kit and sit beside it and head it up the same way. It is that vibe. And
I see a video.
Yeah, that's Jeff.
Craig will buy one.
That's what Jeff wanted, man. And when he heard it, he was flipping out. Like, and it's fun to see him play him. And you know, we've been friends for a long time, and he's a mentor of mine. I mean, I've learned a lot from Jeff over the years, and he's a serious musician. Yeah. Like, in a very small group of cats. Yeah, so it's fun. It's fun to see that, you know.
And using your product or a product that you're a big part of.
Yeah, something I've been part of. But all the guys are part of it in you know, testing and doing things. I mean, I started it with Hibbs back in the day, and you know, I've been a big part of it because of that. But all the guys are part of it. And the design lab is not just me. You know,
it's a great team, isn't it? It's
a
great team.
There's R&D and engineers and stuff, you know, that are a big part of this. The Mapex design guys and the product managers in Taiwan, and you know, it's a great company, man, because I mean, for a company to do this, this is based on artistry. Period. Right? Companies don't like doing things based on artistry. They like doing things based on bottom line.
Spreadsheets.
Right? Spreadsheets.
Right.
And for a company to say, yes, let's break new ground, let's be revolutionary, let's take the artistry of the thing to another place that we haven't done, that's a different mindset from a corporate standpoint. And that's what interested me in the whole thing in the very get-go when I was ending the last thing that I was doing. You know, it was like, what? You guys want a what? You know, so I think it's awesome, you know, and for everybody watching and listening, I mean, you know, there's only a few companies that have that kind of mindset, and they're pretty clear who they are. Yeah. And this is certainly one of them. So, you know, I think, you know, from players and artist standpoint, that's what we want to be involved in, you know. I mean, I want everybody to be able to buy it, of course, and it needs to be priced reasonable, and this is, but at the end of the day, we want a great instrument. Yeah. You know, Craig and I can have anything I want. So it's like, I want to have something that I want. I got to be inspired by it. I got to want to do that. You know, it's not, I got more drums than I'll ever play in my life. So it's not like somebody goes, oh, we'll give you a free drum set. It's like, whoa, great. Yeah. You know, it's about what you want to play, and something that, like Craig said, like you sit down and it makes you want to play more because it sounds so good, you know, or feels so good. And yeah, everybody just needs to check it out. I mean, we can, you know, yap about it forever. They need to check it out, get into the store. You guys have an awesome store. You guys are into it, and play them, you know, mess around with them.
Cool. Check out the links below. We're going to put both of these Legends links in, and we're also going to we've got links to both of these kits because they're on the website ready for the release. And this is Drum Addicts on Andertons TV, and we'll see you next time. You broke it.